Hey everyone, today we will be reviewing a 2016 GMC Sierra Z71 package that belongs to a good friend of mine. So here are the details. This truck is powered by a 5.3 liter V8 that makes a whopping 355 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque. With a double cab and a large towing capacity, we will assess if this truck is the perfect configuration to suit the daily needs of a working tradesman, while also being the ideal spec for long road trips. The comfort level of the trucks on the market is also an important question nowadays, as these vehicles are seen as a daily driver rather than just a utility for most. Can a truck from 2016 hold up to modern standards as far as tech, convenience, and luxury? Watch the rest of the video to find out. Lastly, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. So this is our first truck of the channel, and I will say that, first of all, it's really nice, just the driving position. So you sit very tall, and of course I'm so used to driving sports cars that I've kind of lost sight of the fact that it's just nice to be up this tall, and I think that's why the market for trucks is as good as it is. Because even if you don't need a truck, it is nice to have one. It's nice to have a truck or a crossover or an SUV that, gives you that hip position to where you're almost at a 90-degree angle, whereas a sports car, you're kind of, I don't want to say hunched, but you're kind of crouched in there and basically sitting on the ground. In this driving position makes you feel like you're on top of the world too, like there's no one else around you. You're just the king of the road per se. So this interior is actually quite nice. Even where you'd think there'd be hard plastic on the top of the dashboard, there's this fake leather that just gives you a little bit better sense of like higher quality. It's also nice having analog gauges for everything, whereas these brand new trucks, everything's gone digital. It just kind of gives you a better sense of the, roots of what this truck is meant for, which is hard work. And obviously you saw, this truck, its interior's dirty, its exterior's dirty, but I didn't want to wash it. It's not just because the owner's my friend and, I don't want to be nice to him. But no, I just think that the essence of this truck is that it's supposed to be dirty. It's supposed to be used. And people who keep their trucks, brand spanking clean are also people who don't use them properly. So this truck has the option to switch into two-wheel drive, which we are currently in, or four-wheel drive with, an auto setting too, so the truck can kind of determine when you need four-wheel drive versus two-wheel drive. And obviously the two-wheel drive is the front tires rather than the rear. So as we are stopped, we can kind of gaze around the interior. We got some fake wood trim, which I don't mean fake as like it's bad. I mean fake as in obviously there's not wood in the car. But it honestly looks good, and I think these leather seats are quite comfortable. They don't bolster you in like a sports car does, obviously, because that's not the needs for it. They actually kind of hug you. They're really cozy, and I feel like if you went on a long road trip with this truck, it'd be phenomenal. You have enough space up here in the cabin, especially for, your front two passengers. You're able to both, just kind of get comfy, put your heated seat on. You can have it on just your back or your back and your butt. So that's kind of nice as well. Obviously we don't have CarPlay, but we have nav in here, and the stereo system for this car is actually a Bose one, and it sounds quite good. So this truck, as tested, has 72,000 miles on it, and I will say for the most part it feels like a brand new truck, even though it is, in terms of model years, it's 7 years old. So this 2016 GMC Sierra is one of the 3 engine options. It's the 5.3 liter. And so there's a 4.8 liter 6-cylinder, I believe. There's a 5.3 liter V8, and then there's the 6.2. This is the second of the 3 options, and it's quite enough power for you to be on your daily commute and be able to tow things if you need to, and get up to highway speeds, and obviously cut people off and do jerk truck things. So at highway speeds, this thing rolls pretty smooth. I will say that there's a bit of vibration in the steering wheel, as you get probably with the larger, more aggressive tires. But as far as wind noise goes, it's not too bad in here. It's pretty sound, and I feel like as a highway cruiser, you'll be more than comfortable putting, you know, hundreds of miles on this if you were to take it on a road trip. And although this thing has a navigation system, you'll probably never use it. You'll be using, you know, your iPhone to, you know, use Waze to be able to track where police are and traffic and whatnot. But I think it's kind of pointless to have navigation systems in cars and stuff now, especially with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto being a thing. But I wouldn't see that as a plus. If your truck comes with the navigation system, you could take it or leave it, really. So this truck does have a manual gear selector, but I wouldn't find myself using it unless I, you know, need extra torque while towing and I need to be in a lower gear. But if you go into the tow mode for the truck, it will, you know, automatically do that. So I wouldn't worry too much about, you know, using the gear selector. And in order to go up or down a gear, it's just this little plus or minus button on the stock. I hope my buddy already knows this, but his truck is going to need a new signal relay. So in this GMC Sierra, we also have dual climate control, where you can set them individually or sync them up, which is nice. I will also say that the leather's held up pretty well for a 7-year-old truck, with this amount of use on it too. There's not really any sign of cracking or tearing in the leather. So, you know, if you put 200,000 miles on it, might be a different story. But what's also quite convenient about this interior is you have this large center console that you can store stuff in. It's got plenty of room. I mean, you could probably even fit a laptop in that thing, it's so huge. And with this electronic driver's seat, you know, you can really get you know, lumbar support and a comfy driving position, to where if you're on a long road trip, or just, you know, your back hurts if you're in construction, you know, you'll be able to adhere to any sort of position your back needs in to be comfy. And, you know, after driving a truck on the highway, you can definitely see why, you know, some of these guys with the giant trucks go so fast, because you can lose track of the speed you're at pretty easily. So in our dashboard, we can also see oil temp, our battery, you know, how much gas we have. So honestly, you'll say that, you know, you have all the info you need readily available, which is nice. You know, these dashboards of these GMCs aren't trying to be overly complicated or techy. I mean, I can't speak for the new ones, but in 2016, a dashboard like this won't age your truck at all. You know, you can get in one from, you know, 2008, and you'd feel like it's, you know, in 2016, and vice versa, just because they've all remained the same over the years. And, you know, the more simple you get, the less dated you become over time. So it's about 75% throttle there, and it definitely picks up off the line pretty easily. You have a lot of low-end torque, which is nice, because, you know, doing some okay, just cross the street and wave, yeah. If you have a lot of, you know, if you're towing stuff, you really need all that torque to be able to get around with, you know, a heavy trailer or whatever you feel like towing. I can't speak on fuel economy while towing, but, you know, this truck gets pretty good fuel economy for being a truck at about 20 miles per gallon. So you will say that, you know, it's not necessarily a gas guzzler of the old days, where, you know, my mother had a 2004 Dodge Durango, and it'd get between 8 and 12 miles per gallon. And, you know, there are still trucks like the Ram TRX that do that, but overall you can drive a truck and still get decent fuel economy. But with the gas prices right now, even at 20 miles a gallon, you know, it adds up pretty quick when you have a 30-gallon tank. You know, so My buddy will probably complain about having a $100 bill every time he goes to the gas station, but you know, at least that gas can last a while. And in our center gauge, you can also see, you know, your tire pressure, how much fuel you have left. We're sitting at about 330 miles on, you know, more than 3/4 tank, but we're not necessarily full. You know, so this truck gets about the same range as my Hyundai Elantra, so even though the fuel tank is quite larger, obviously this car has like half the efficiency. So where does buying a pre-owned truck make sense, especially, you know, a GMC Sierra? So obviously if you're looking to start your own business and you need to, you know, lug around a lot of supplies or tow things, this is a great starting point because you're going to get a truck that isn't $100,000 and you can get stuff that has high quality that is a lot less money. And so when you have a truck that you don't have to pay an incredible amount of money to get into and you can still afford the nice things and have the tow capacity, it's a great place to start. Especially when the wear items, as far as these trucks go, like everything's pretty inexpensive to fix. Obviously your most expensive consumable is going to be gas and tires, but as long as you can get tires that last 40 to 50,000 miles, it's not too big of a deal. So I haven't driven much of the competitors to, you know, the GMC Sierra, but I will say that I haven't heard of these trucks being unreliable, and I feel like if you get one pre-owned that's a couple years old, you can really have it hold its value until you get, you know, upwards of 150 to 200,000 miles. So keep that in mind. If it's a truck that you want to, you know, park money and drive it around and then sell it when you can afford to get something new, you won't lose much money after it's had its initial depreciation. So what I also think is pretty interesting with these trucks is they track engine hours, because there's a lot of trucks that work into people's lives and they spend a lot of time idling, whether, you know, the owner's going in to get some supplies or it's parked and it's waiting to be unloaded. And people don't tend to turn their trucks on and off a lot, especially in the cold winter months. And so you can kind of see how long the engine's been idling rather than just tracking the mileage. I don't necessarily think it's super important with, you know, these pedestrian trucks, but, you know, a box truck or any other commercial truck, it definitely is something that you need to keep track of. So what I found in some of these four-door trucks is that they have a back seat, but they're not necessarily usable. You know, they don't have a lot of room for the rear passengers, especially as far as legroom goes. But I will say that this truck has plenty of it. You know, the back seats are also leather and, you know, feel quite comfortable, and they, you know, have enough legroom to where the passenger doesn't feel squished behind you. You know, because I've been in, like, say, like a Ford Ranger with a rear seat, and it's like, why is this even here? Because you don't necessarily need it, but it's something that, you know, these companies market, you know, these manufacturers market so that they can say, oh, you know, you have a back seat, not that it's necessarily usable for an everyday purpose. But with this truck being able to, you know, be a nice road trip vehicle, especially if you can put a cover over, you know, your truck bed so you can fit, say, luggage back there or anything you know, plan on bringing if you're like camping and whatnot. I think it's a great place to be in this interior. So with that being said, as this is my first truck experience and this, you know, the first truck I've actually driven, I'm pleasantly surprised at its ability to just be a nice cruiser. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be a work vehicle, but that's definitely their intended purpose, and you can tell with, you know, the stuff that's in here. With that being said, if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them, and please like, subscribe, and obviously, like I said before, leave a comment below.